As you know, at Restack, owning your data and making sure you have quality data within Bullhorn is really, really important to us. I was recently joined on a webinar with Gabe Mendelson from Woo, and we spoke all about this in more detail. I'm going to make the assumption that everybody is now here and is joining us today. Welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. I can see we've got people over here from Australia. So Hamish, thank you very, very much for joining. We are pleased that you are all here. Everybody else who's coming along, thank you so much. We would love to hear from you. If you have any questions in the chat for Gabe or myself about anything that we cover, then you absolutely know where we are. Just drop those questions in and we will see those come through. The plan is that we will be talking for around sort of 25, 30 minutes. It's not going to be a really, really long webinar, but we want you to have lots of quick takeaways for you to see. So without any further ado, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Holly Langley. I am the founder and CEO of Restack. I started Restack about just over 2.5 years ago. My background was in recruitment operations, but what I wanted to do is help recruitment agencies maximize every part of their tech stack even further. And that's what we've been doing ever since. We've worked with around 75 agencies across Australia, the US, and the UK to help them maximize every part of Bullhorn through automation, data, and analytics. And throughout that journey, I've been working very closely with Gabe. So Gabe, over to you. Tell us a bit about you guys.
So my name's Gabe. First of all, Holly, it's great to be with you today. And the truth is, I'm not such a crazy guy. I just hate monopolies. And I love data. I love AI. I love keeping up with all this. So, speaking with you all the time about kind of how to make the most out of our network and our database. So I lead partnerships here at Woo. What we focus here on Woo is your data, right? Is making sure that all of your records are up to date. And I guess just to give a little bit of an intro about what we'll talk about today, Holly, I'll do a little bit of a drill if that's okay.
Go for it. Go for it.
So let's get everyone in the mood. If you're a recruitment agency owner, great, act as yourself. If you're not a recruitment agency owner, then be in the mind of, let's say, the founder of your business. Now, what I want to do is I want to say, when I started my agency 5 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, why did I start an agency? Why did I decide that I should be starting a recruitment agency?
Yeah.
It's a good question. A lot of people, from what I hear, at least, what I typically hear is that people say, I'm a people person. I have all of these contacts. I have all of these relationships and everyone's moving jobs and I've helped out people before. Let me formalize this into a business, right? And it's all about your network. So why do you hire more people if it's about your network? Because at a certain point, and we're still in this drill, right? At a certain point, you can't handle that network by yourself. So you hire more people. And what ends up happening is dilution, because as much as they love your network, if they can't keep track of it, they start going to LinkedIn, they start reaching out coldly. And then when you finally come and either want to raise more money or even sell your business, you don't really have a worth because your network isn't what's being upkept. Your database is worth nothing if it's out of date, right? So that's what we'll talk about here. We want to talk about that shift from a dilution via LinkedIn to a strong, fruitful database that's continuing to compound for us. So I hope that drill give us a little bit of like a trip down memory lane to say, why should we be using our database and not LinkedIn?
And I
Also
think
LinkedIn, not strictly LinkedIn.
I think you're right. And I think like if we look at like from the work that we do with our clients, I would say the average amount of people they have on their system is probably between 100 and 500,000 records. Like that's a lot of people. And it makes you think that, and this is the thing that we often say, is it's not about the quantity of stuff, it's about the quality. You don't need 500,000 candidates for every single job. You need one good candidate, and you've got that, and you just need to find them and maximize that. Now, the thing that I'm kind of what I find really interesting across the market is, like, let's face it, like the recruitment industry has had a very turbulent couple of years. Let's say, we won't go into too much into that, but recruitment agencies have scaled back. They don't have the budgets. How much, I don't know how much LinkedIn are charging at the moment, but let's face it, it's not cheap on top of a product that you're already paying for. So to keep margins, and especially profit margins, high within a business, but also the fees that you're charging to your clients a suitable amount. We need to activate the network that you're already paying for, rather than having to go outside that and spend another 100, £500,000, whatever that may be, on an external resource where you end up messaging people and get what, a 24% response. It's not going to move that conversation along.
Yeah, and to frame that pain even more is that Bullhorn has a stat that 70% of the candidates that you need or that you end up talking to are already in your system.
Yeah.
Of course, that's, assuming that you have a mass critical. So if you have 100,000 records, then that pain is not only that you're reaching out to people that are already in your database, you're double paying for them. It's also reaching out to them cold as if you never had a relationship with them, when you could be reaching out with some quality, with some value, referring to your past history together. And when we're talking about InMails, now that it costs £8 in InMail, that's crazy. Like, you can't just play the numbers game at those type of sums of money. It's just unsustainable.
What's really interesting is I literally just before this, I got a random message on LinkedIn. Someone had declined my InMail. I sent it to them in March about selling something. I was selling something. And this InMail came back, honestly, like about half an hour ago. And I was like, what? Who have I messaged? And then realized that it was from that long ago. So stuff is being replied to, but I knew that if I probably just picked up the phone and rang that person, he would potentially answered, well, hopefully we'd have had a quicker conversation than waiting for 8 months. Now, I find this fascinating. Now, out of my immediate family, there's like probably 6 of us, all like professionals in what we do. Some of us with like 20 years experience, some 10, some 40 years experience. Out of the 6 of us, I am the only person who uses LinkedIn. So my husband doesn't use it. My brother-in-law doesn't use it. My sister-in-law doesn't use it. My parents don't use it. And we are all still at work. We are all still like, they're not job hunting or anything, but like LinkedIn is not a part of their lives. They all have very different professions and they do very different things, but they are all roles that recruiters would target people on, and not one of them is on it. So we also need to bear in mind that not everybody is on LinkedIn. Not everybody uses it. And I know for a fact that there is a chance that if you were to message my family on LinkedIn, feel free, go and find them, feel free to give it a go. I generally don't think they'll reply because they're not on it. They might have it every like 10 years they log on, but it's not a part of their lives. So from my point of view, the recruiters who are going to place my family in their next jobs will be the ones who got their CV 5 years ago, who are now updating their profile, have asked for an up-to-date CV, or have called them or have kept that relationship going. They are the ones who my family will be using as recruiters, not someone who's randomly sent them a LinkedIn message.
For sure. And I think that definitely by now we've framed it that we say, okay, we can't just depend on LinkedIn, right? Just like you said right now, not everyone's on LinkedIn. B, it costs way too much to hedge all of our bets on LinkedIn. So the question I would ask, and that I want to talk about from from all of, I guess, the operations, the consultant, and the salesperson's perspective is, okay, fine. I get it. I can't be only in LinkedIn, but how do I at least create that same experience of LinkedIn inside my ATS?
I love that. That's great. So how do we create the same experience as LinkedIn within the CRM? I have never thought of it like that. I feel like we're now going to have a whole other webinar later on this year to discuss that point. But no, I agree with you entirely. And I think something that I've just thought about off the back of what I was saying a second ago, which kind of goes on to that, is I remember the name of the first recruiter who ever got me my first job, because I used the recruitment agency to find work, and I will never forget that person's name. I often wonder where they are now. And it's that personal touch. That's what people want from an agency. And you might get that on LinkedIn, but it might take you a lot longer to get there. But having that existing relationship and kind of bringing that human touch into the CRM is where we go from here. So if we delve in to some like practical examples, let's take a look at like a candidate workflow. So let's say you're a recruiter who's got a job. 9 times out of 10, recruiters will go to LinkedIn. They'll run the search. They will get 100 messages out, let's say, and they'll get that response back. If we can do this within the CRM, like what does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, so I would say it's a mixture of the two. One is the workflow, as you mentioned, and 2 is the general candidate experience. that you want them to be to
Yeah.
have, right? And how do we allow that? I'm actually going to start from the second one. Let's say candidate Holly, right? Holly was a candidate way back when. Now she's a founder. She's not looking for work. So all the recruitment agencies don't reach out to her too quickly. But what would you want to get as a message periodically, but consistently, that you would say, this is worth being in my inbox and this is worth me being in this community called Acme Agency? So that's the first question. As an experience, what type of messages would you want to get?
For me, I suppose it would be some insights as to what's going on. Like, what are we seeing
Perfect.
across the market, some trends. Just, I'm always interested to see what is going on. Now, obviously, I come at this as a founder and a CEO in two levels. Like, there might be jobs that, if let's say, obviously, there might be work out there that we can say we can pick that up. We might be able to deliver that in our business, but also as a founder and a CEO, we're looking to hire and we're looking to make some new hires towards the end of this year. So I also kind of need now people coming through, and potentially if I got some specs through from an agency talking to us about the next marketing hire or automation hire that we might need to make, we've got that. So just kind of understanding how the market's looking, events, that kind of stuff, I suppose.
Yeah, insights are key, right? So, for example, as a hiring manager, right? If you're looking to hire marketing people and then you got a message in your inbox from Acme Agency that you've spoken to in the past saying, new stat from MIT, not only is it good to hire regular marketing people, but marketing people specifically that have been using Canva have a 10x ROI more than whatever it may be. Insights, that's number one. B, for candidate experience, back to candidate, you want to know periodically what jobs you're a match for,
Yeah.
right? That could be out there. And more importantly, what you could expect salary wise, right? So even though me, Gabe, I'm not looking for a job unless Meta's looking to pay me, $2 million to be their go-to-market guy, but I'm not looking for a job. I wouldn't mind, or I would even appreciate if I felt like there was a personal relationship with the recruitment agency I've spoken to in the past that every so often said, hey, you know what? We're looking for this role, and this role. The salary expectation is 250, 300, and 325K, 500K OTE, and we found that you're a match. If at any point this becomes relevant, reach back out. And this is where automation comes into play. And why do I say that? Because 90% of the time, the candidate is not actively looking to move, right? That's what's funny about recruitment. It's not that you're reaching out to someone that left a request for a demo. You're reaching out to someone that's in the middle of their life, right? They have stability. So they might not be looking to move now, but the second you engage with them or have engaged with them, and you can create that consistent candidate experience through automation, that's when you're golden. So if you set up an automation that using, just for example, Bullhorn Automation's auto match and Woo's matching algorithm, combine that together, all of the profiles have been kept up to date. Every quarter, send out an email to all of the candidates in my system with their matches. That's value, and that's automated.
Yeah.
So that's just one idea, but then there are a billion different ideas, right? Last meaningful engagement as a filter. I think that's one of yours, right? To
Yeah.
say, when was the last time we had meaningful connection? If it's been 6 months since last meaningful connection, set a task for the consultant to pick up the phone and give them a call.
Yeah.
And before that, go on to GPT and ask what are the matches. So there are so many different ways that we could do automation for our internal processes and also external campaigns that have to do with candidate acquisition and candidate experience.
This is one of my favorite automations that we've done. I don't often talk about it because I don't want everyone to steal my ideas, but I know I trust the people who
The
are
secret sauce.
yeah. This was a bit of a candidate re-engagement campaign. So my client did perm recruitment, and typically the candidates were would I think their tenure was like 2 to 4 years, for example, after they'd placed them. So we were able to understand who had had a promotion in that sort of 4-year period. And when they got a promotion, we sent them a link and I think it was like a small box of beers to say congrats on the program. There's an amazing website called HugMe, HUGGG, 3Gs.me. And it allows you to just buy bulk gifts. And then you just send out a link that's got a URL in it. It's not bespoke, it's generic. And then that person can kind of exchange it for a gift. Now, you might think, oh my God, Holly, that's going to cost you a fortune. But actually, the reality was, out of the 500 people that had been placed, let's say only 4 of them, or maybe like between 4 and 10 had actually had promotions in that time period. But we were then able to do a fully automated campaign to track who'd been promoted. We actually sent them something and they absolutely loved it. And it just kept that communication going. And like we'd played a massive part in their lives to give them that job, and they should be recognized for that. And why not, hey? And then when that rocked up at their home or their office, people couldn't believe that the agency that they're placed with 3 years ago had sent them something like that. So there's just so many opportunities. If you have kind of the mindset about adding value to these candidates throughout their life cycle, why not?
And I don't want to bounce too far down this rabbit hole, but think about it. That candidate that you placed, that you mentioned, that some of them got promoted, if they then got promoted, they might be building out a team, right? And then we could turn our candidates that we've placed into clients. It's all about harnessing our network.
Yeah.
And our network is located in our ATS. And our ATS needs to be kept up to date for us to have any insight on if they got promoted or not got promoted. So to summarize on the candidate side, right? So we said candidate experience. The last thing I want to summarize on the candidate side is the workflow. Right now, what they're doing is maybe our recruitment consultants are going into LinkedIn. They're going to search there because everything is up to date. So why would I not go there, right? It's very easy and intuitive to search.
Mm-hmm.
So great, why not? And it's very intuitive and easy to send out an email, right? So theoretically, that's the functionality that we want to do workflow wise. But with the capabilities of ATS today, you have search capabilities, whether it's your native search, whether you're using something like WooGPT, which is pretty cool to just search in English, or whether you're using anything, right? You have your database up to date, hopefully, because again, shameless self-promoting, but of course, it's called a database. You better have your data up to date. So hopefully Woo's keeping it up to date. And then you have the power of all the automations that are available today. So you can search, you can find updated profiles, and you can send out messages. You have that same workflow for your recruitment consultant in your ATS. No excuses, right?
The other thing for me is it's quicker. Like, I know I keep going on about this. If you were to run a search on LinkedIn, you're going to wait, clearly, like I did, 6 months for someone to reply. And yet on the ATS, you've got their phone number. Like, I go into a lot of agencies, and sometimes the team is sitting there in silence because I can just see them messaging on LinkedIn. Like, it's 2025. We need to pick up the phone. Like, if you pick up the phone, like, I will always answer my phone. I will only ever not answer it if somebody's I'm on a webinar or on a meeting. However, I'm not gonna lie, I've got like 100 unread LinkedIn messages. Sorry guys, I will go through it and tidy up one day. But if you ring, it's that human touch again. And you always need to be making sure that like you've got that level of comms. You're much more likely to have that conversation. Now, for some candidates, they don't want to answer. They might be on site, they can't answer. So look into having that WhatsApp, texting. There's so many different things that will make you stand out. I saw, again, coming onto that, there was a LinkedIn post that went live a few weeks ago from somebody else. If I can find it, I will share it with you guys later. And it was a hiring manager who said he'd posted a job. He had 76 emails from
Oh my God.
One person rang, something horrific like that. One person called. So that human touch. We're doing this now. It's face to face. We can see each other. That's that human connection. That's what we need. And you're never going to get that on LinkedIn. So having that personal touch, using the details, using the data from the ATS is going to make you have a much more valuable conversation. And the plus side, don't forget, there's so many other products now where you can be transcribing calls and saving that all into the system. So you can have a really valuable conversation. You don't need to make loads of notes because the transcriber is there. And then when you next got it, your data is even more up to date. That's the dream, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's possible. That's the bottom line, that it's working for agencies today. So there's no excuses. So I guess closing in on the candidate side and now talking about biz dev, because like you said, it's been a rocky road the past few years for staffing, and we don't even know where the end of this rocky road is. So the question every agency should be asking themselves, and I'll propose here, is why should any company or any hiring manager use my services for hiring their new team as opposed to anyone else? And it's a legitimate question because 95% of the ads that I see are because of the people. We have a great network, like such generic stuff. So the question really is, why should John Joe that I just reached out to, a hiring manager, answer me and not 75 of the other emails that he got? If they only got emails. Hopefully 75 people called, Why should they take my
Yeah.
services and not the other 75 people that called? It's a legitimate question.
Yeah. And that, yeah. And I suppose if you've got a billion marketing things to send over and say, this is it, great. But actually, what do you put in there? How do you show up that you're
Yeah.
an agency of value? For me, the most important thing that I kind of say to my clients is using the data like fill rates, the time to hire, the success of these hires. For me, it's kind of driving that data through. And that all comes back to kind of building the relationships, making sure the data is clean as it can be. Because if you've got nothing, and if you have to wait 3 weeks for someone to reply to your email and start the search from scratch every time, not that helpful.
Yeah. Quantifying the pain, quantifying the solution.
Yeah.
That's definitely one step. Another step is, for example, lookalike, right? So, for example, asking my database a simple question, like let's say I want to win EY's business. Let's just say I want to ask what companies like EY have I had placements with, and craft an anonymized a case study that I could then send, right? So that if maybe I worked with Deloitte in the past, I'll be able to say, hey, I worked with another company just like yours. And then again, quantifying it, it took me 25 days to fill the role and save them X amount of time that they would have spent on it on average. That's coming and bringing value. Another answer to the question of why I use my services, not anyone else's, and it's a trick answer, is because you've already used me in the past, right? So if I
Yeah.
was, at EY and I use a recruitment agency and now I move to Deloitte, me the hiring manager, tracking those hiring managers that you made placements with could open up, especially if you have thousands of client contacts, thousands of new opportunities at new logos that we didn't even know about. So tracking our network, again, it's hard to stick out in a pile of 76 people sending an email the second they send out a post on LinkedIn. But if I've had an advantage that I've worked with you in the past, then that'll cut through all of the noise. So one of the big things that we see that helps people win business is by keeping track of your client contacts, understanding and being alerted when one client contact that you made a placement with is now at a new company and is within your industries.
Yeah. And that's it. Like there's such a warm conversation there. And I think it's a fantastic way to regenerate different conversations, get in with new companies, like providing your company's done a good job, which I'm sure it definitely will have done in the past. It's just a fantastic way to move that conversation on again and again. And like I often see, like, from a business development point of view, and I say this to our clients, like, who are you targeting? And they go, oh, we're just gonna do some market mapping. Like, we don't need to start cold. Like, you've been going 20 years. You've got the list. I can tell you who you need to be ringing. And having that and using that past relationship is so, so important. And again, they've started a new job, send them something, meet up with them, all that kind of
Exactly.
stuff. Like, it doesn't need to be like overly complicated. You just need to know where these people are and map them properly, and have that single source of truth, so you can then understand how you manage that going forward.
Yeah, doubling down on that point that you said, in a time where it's so easy to send out messages, we need to cut through the noise with things like sending gifts or meeting up with them. And if it's a complete stranger, it's a lot harder to do that, right? Or it comes off even as needy. If it's someone that I've met with in the past or that I've placed or that I made a placement with, and I say, hey, I wanted to send you over a gift. I saw you move to a new company. Congrats. Or if it's a candidate, I saw you got promoted in the job I placed you in. So happy we found you for this role. I wanted to send you a congratulations, I don't know, gift card, whatever it may be, or to meet up. That's what ends up keeping these relationships fruitful. And that's exactly what I mean by compounding, because then that candidate is not just someone that you placed once and forget about. It's
Yeah.
letting that compound. And as they progress, you win new business out of it, which is incredible. And we see the value of that.
And that's touching on like the contact who is move location. How kind of do you guys feel about like the viewing things from a company perspective? Like the work that you guys do, are you updating companies, or how can agencies best map out their ICP list, for example?
Exactly what I was going to say. A lot of agencies, what their salespeople have is they have a list, just like I have a preparation right over here, right? And the list will be a list of all these companies that are within their ICP. So if let's double down on financial services, right? And let's say Bank of America, USBC, whatever it may be, Credit Suisse, and then they tell the salespeople, go ahead, win their roles. It's like it's so broad that we need to specify it. So something that what we would see agencies do with Woo is to say, okay, I want to ask my database, who out of all of my client contacts that I've ever spoken to is currently at this company, and filter it by my past engagement. If I have people that I've had placements with, I'm going to send them a keg of beer and I'm going to meet up with them at the bar down the street, right? Just like you said, because then it's really a warm relationship.
Yeah.
Maybe it's someone that I've had back and forths with. Great. I'll know to refer to that in the past. So I will go on to WooGPT, ask that simple question of who out of all my client contacts currently works at Credit Suisse,
Mhm.
sort it by, past engagement, and then either craft me tailored automations to send out, or at the same time, I'll pick up the phone and I'll call them and I'll send them a hug me, you said?
Yeah. Yeah.
A hug me.
There we go. There you go. I'll have to send you one after this as a thank you for coming on the webinar. And
There you
yeah,
go.
I think it's really interesting. And I think a lot of this, if I look at Bullhorn specifically, the 9 times out of 10, I speak to people and recruiters about using the contacts as the BD point because you've got a relationship with the human. However, having that analysis from the company to see kind of the hiring trends and what's happening within those areas, and then filtering that down to the contact to really build the relationship is really valuable. And it's always interesting to kind of see actually within a company how many points of contact you have. So if you've got a lot, if we look at Credit Suisse, for example, how many people are actually hiring that you have got a relationship with? Is it one person? Is it 10? Because if that one person goes and they then go to EY, you've got no relationship there. So actually, we really need to be making sure from a business development and a sort of a sustainability point of view that we have got communications of different roles, different departments, different hiring managers, because you can't have a single point of failure within your CRM. And I think that's having those regular updates and using these great data points really kind of helps solidify that, doesn't it?
Yeah. What staffing agencies all when they refer to it, they call it landing and expanding, right?
Yeah.
When I land in a company, I don't want all of my eggs in one basket. I want to talk to as many people as I
Yeah.
can. So I'm going to ask for introductions from the person I'm working with now, and I'm going to map out exactly who I have connections with in the organization. So you're totally spot on there.
So I'm gonna go for a slightly rogue question now to you. And if anyone has any questions in the chat, please put them all through before we wrap up. So this is my question to you, and I'll give you my answer first, and I'll be interested to know yours.
Okay, good. I'll give me some time to think.
Yeah, exactly. Out of all of the data points that you guys update within Woo from external sources, what is, in your opinion, the most important part of that? For me, it's understanding, like I'm going to say like an industry point of view and a category point of view, where those people are now. So if I have a look, so before I was in recruitment, I was in childcare and I was a nanny. If you want the whole story behind that, feel free to drop me a message. I used nanny agencies to help me find work for like 10 years. I have not been a nanny for another 10 years. And yet I am still getting messages from a couple of agencies every month about live jobs that I'm never going to go back to now. And I cannot believe, one, from a GDPR point of view, I'm still getting them. I really feel like I need to go and tidy them up. And two, like, I just wish they knew that I was no longer in that industry. Now, you're all thinking, Holly, just go tell them to remove them from your system. But I kind of I find it really interesting, and I kind of want to keep it in there to see how much longer this goes on for. But I think that understanding of if those candidates are in your market or kind of like where they are now is so valuable. So that's my key takeaway about what I think the most kind of valuable part of the data enrichment is. Like, what do you think?
First of all, I'm sorry. I'll stop sending you the messages for my burner accounts for nanny
Oh,
services. I was doing it for fun. I'm sorry. Um, so I would split it into contacts and candidates. Contacts, I totally agree. I think that industry is the most important thing because if someone moved from, for example, financial services into education, and let's say I don't support education, then A, it's a waste of my time to start investigating into that. And B, I'd be reaching out irrelevantly and just burning my legitimacy. So on the hiring manager side, I think that the most important thing to keep up to date with is what industry are they in to make sure that we're reaching out to them relevantly. That and email address because business emails change. So that's also an important one. On the candidate side, I would say that the most important thing is seniority of their role. What I mean by that is no one wants to be reached out based off of a role that they did 10 years ago. If someone would reach out to me for an SDR role, Great. I was an SDR a few years ago, and I'm glad about that experience, but it's completely irrelevant to reach out. Like it would be wasting both of our times to reach out to me based off of that, right? So I think that understanding, of course, where they are, what company, what role, but the seniority of their role as well helps you map it out. The skills is important, but the skills it'll already know to enrich and to match. If the seniority is what can kill relationships. So that's an important candidate.
And I suppose also what we haven't said here is that if you and I, so my database has probably got like 2,000 records on it, so like really really small that we use. However, if you and I sat there next week and said, right, Gabe, all of next week we're going to go through, we're going to make sure everything is up to date because we haven't updated it for 2 years. We're going to get everyone's emails, everybody's phones, their industry, their job title, da da da. Like, no way would we get that done in a week. And that's 2,000 records. And I've got a really small database and we don't have much stored in there. But like, this is like, there's no other way to do it, really. Like, this enrichment of candidates is going to be the way forward, no matter kind of like how it's done or what you choose to update. It fundamentally, I think, is going to be the game changer between agencies who kind of thrive towards the end of this year and into next year, because they're using stuff that is live. Like this, obviously 5-10 years ago was never an option. And it was, we just need your resumes, your CVs, send it over. And we've come on so far from that, even just in the last couple of years. And I'll be very interested to see like where we all are this time next year from a kind of a data quality point of view, because I know it's already so much better than it was.
Yeah, it really wasn't possible, and it's not possible today to keep those records. People compare it to painting a long, very long bridge. By the time you end up painting it, then you need to start painting the beginning because it's starting to crack. So it's impossible to do it manually. Now we have the capability to do that, but it's not only important for our database to just sit there up to date. It's important because with the exponential growth of capabilities of what we could do within our ATS, it is only as good as the data is sitting on. And if I'm going to be sending out to people based off of, like we said, the wrong email address, or even the wrong role, that's it. I'm not getting a response no matter what. So it could be the best search and match and automation capabilities in the world. It's only as good as the data it's sitting on. So we need to make sure that that's in check so that all this cool new stuff that's coming out will actually be fed the right data and work.
Yeah, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I believe in it. I believe in it. And I think it's an amazing opportunity for our industry here to really get on top of their data, use it, and support like the candidates and the clients in value, which will in turn sort of support the consultants and our wider industry. So between you and I'm sure we can make that happen.
I'm sure we've made it happen and we're going to make it happen.
Exactly. Okay. So just to round up, Gabe, if people want to get to know more about you and what you guys are doing, what is the best way for them to reach out?
Always ironically, LinkedIn. It kills me every time I say it, but I'm very active on LinkedIn on the free version so that you could message me. You don't need to send me, you can send me a connection. So best is on LinkedIn, Gabe Mendelson. Also via email is gabrielm@woo.io. Feel free to reach out to me there, and always happy to chat everything, rec tech involved. I lead partnerships, so it could be any questions you have regarding tech. And of course, data and Woo involved as well.
Fantastic. And from our point of view, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or email if you need anything. And for those of you who haven't heard, we are hosting in-person training on Bullhorn in London, 22nd of October. So if you want to understand, before you even think about getting more products to clean your data, if you want to know about how you can improve your data and what your data is currently looking like, what your fill rates are, what your adoption is, and how you can improve the adoption and efficiency across the business, then drop me a message and I will send you those details over. We really believe in just maximizing what we've already got. And I know Gabe is the same. So lots of opportunity out there. Thank you all for joining. Thank you so much for kickstarting your week with hopefully a fantastic conversation and lots of ideas. And if you need anything at any point, then you absolutely know where Gabe and I are. And thank you very much for joining, everybody.
Thank you so much for joining, and thanks so much for hosting this, Holly. It's really been a pleasure.
Anytime,
as
Gabe.
always.
Always a pleasure to speak with you. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a fantastic day. If you're interested in learning more about how Woo can update your CRM and to make sure you have lots of quality records in there, then reach out to Gabe via LinkedIn. If you want to know more about how Restack can help you, you know where I am.